So let's talk about when a priest murdered a young boy. The year was 1972. The location, Springfield, Massachusetts. A young boy had just gotten off from class. He was going to Catholic school, and he was spending time with a priest by the name of Richard Levine. His Catholic title would, of course, be Father Richard Levine. And a young boy is spending time with a priest. A young boy is supposed to feel safe around a priest. A young boy is supposed to feel safe inside of a church. Any human being is supposed to feel safe inside of a church. Any human being is supposed to feel safe in the presence of a priest. But that's not what happened. This young boy, Danny Croteau, was found dead. He was found on the banks of the Chicopee River, just a few miles away from his family's home in Springfield. And for decades, this was considered to be a cold case. They didn't know exactly who murdered this young boy, but they found his body bludgeoned. The priest, Richard Levine, he was eventually found out to be a sex offender. He was a molester. And he was eventually removed from ministry in 1991. And then he was completely removed from the clergy in 2003. And just this month, May of 2021, it was concluded by prosecutors that Father Richard Levine was indeed the murderer, because the police, the authorities, spoke with him, and it was very obvious that Levine was indeed the one who murdered this young boy. Because officers, or the investigator, was asking Levine, you were with this young boy, Danny Croteau, by the river. Why did you go to the river? Well, and this priest, you can tell he was a very cruel and sadistic person, because he says, well, this young boy, Danny, he was kind of dumb, strange young boy. And he wanted to go to the river, so we went to the river. And he was the kind of boy that, he would speak very loudly numerous times. And you just felt like turning around and telling him to shut up. This is what this priest said. This is supposed to be a priest. This is supposed to be a man. Well, he was, I understand that he was defrocked, but this is a person who once wore the cloth. And when you wear the cloth, you're supposed to be humble and patient. This person wasn't any of that. None of the fruits of the Spirit were in this person. And he said that he took this young boy to the river, and he said, I just shoved him. I didn't hit him with a rock. No. I just shoved him. They found this boy bludgeoned. He was bludgeoned with a rock. And what Levine didn't tell the investigator was that for months he had been molesting Danny Croteau. And Danny Croteau told him that he was going to report him. And this priest, he didn't want to go to prison. So he murdered him. And prosecutors were just about to bust this guy. But he died. He died this month from coronavirus. And you look at this the story and you think, well, how could a priest do this? And for a long time now, I have been telling you guys my experiences within the Catholic Church. How I met priests who were indeed predators. How I met with Father Robert L. Kinsel, who told me that the evil ways of Sodom were completely okay. And he said, oh, let's go on a tour to Italy. I do tours every year. And I said, oh, okay, where's the harm in that? You guys have to understand, in those days, I was very, very spiritual. I was constantly studying Christianity, constantly reading into the mystical teachings of Catholicism. So when I met this priest, and he was very educated, I thought, oh, educated priest, loves to talk about the Bible, loves to talk about church history, loves to talk about theology. This is the kind of priest that I want to hang out with. I didn't see anything wrong with going to Italy for a tour to Rome with a priest. And then I called him up and I said, hey, what's the agenda going to be? When do you usually buy your ticket? And as we were talking, he says, oh, by the way, we can share a room together. And that was a red flag. Right there, it was a red flag. They are predators everywhere. I met with I met with Monsignor Michael Yarbrough. We were just talking. And he told me, hey, if you'd ever like to hang out, we can talk about spiritual things, spiritual matters, let me know. And I find out that he was indeed a predator. He was indeed a predator. I remember years ago, I was in this church, and I was talking to some people in the church, some lay people, and this priest I knew walks up to me, and he said, Theodore, how are you doing? And I said, I'm doing good, Father. How are you? Oh, I'm doing well. And he says, Ted, I would love to see your library. As you can see, I have a library. These aren't all the books that I own. I own more, but this is just one part of my private library. And he says, Ted, I would love to see your library. And I said, oh, anytime, Father, you want to come see my library? I'd love to show you. So later on that day, Sunday afternoon, he pops up in front of my house, on my front door. And I said, oh, Father, how are you? And everything. And he comes into the house. I show him my library, and I start showing him my books. And I go to the library, and I got my back is facing him, so I don't see what he's doing. I pick up a book, I turn around, and there's the priest. He just lays down on my bed. Like he lives here. Like it's his house. And I'm thinking, like, what the heck? And he has zero interest in anything that I'm it was just so weird. The whole experience was so weird, and he eventually got up, but it was just so bizarre. The whole thing. And he had zero interest in anything that I had to say. You could see it in his face. He had zero interest. And I remember telling him, I said, you need to get your sermons more militant. Your sermons aren't militant, I told him. Your sermons are basically told him, like, your sermons are too soft. Your sermons need to be stronger. And he got really angry, and eventually he said, well, I got to go, and he left. And then he sent me an email mad that I told him that he needs to change the sermons. And he said, you want to change me, and you want to change what I have to say, and blah, blah, blah. And he was just upset. And I didn't go to that church anymore. But it was just, I've had weird experiences in the Catholic Church, just bizarre experiences. And of course, no one tried to kill me. No one laid a hand on me because I'm 6 foot and I'm over 200 pounds. But they were definitely predators. And I later found out that priest, the priest who invited himself, he eventually got moved to a different diocese. They sent him to England. And they said, well, he broke his back. There are predators everywhere. But there's many predators in the church. And it's disgusting. This story, the story of Richard Levine murdering Danny Croteau, it doesn't surprise me one iota. Doesn't surprise me at all. And it just reminds me of Dennis Rader, the serial killer who was the president of his church congregation in Wichita, Kansas. And he was a murderer and he was a cross-dresser. They are people out there, and I can't fully fathom it, but I remember listening to Dennis Rader's daughter speak. And she probably had the best explanation that I've heard so far. She said that her father had this ability to compartmentalize everything in his life. He would do evil. When he was pure evil. When he was in the church setting, he acted like he was very, very pious. When he was with his family, he was a family man. He was able to compartmentalize everything. And I just can't fathom that. I can't fathom doing evil to someone and then going off to church and acting like Mr. Preacher. To me, it's incomprehensible. I can't do it. But there are people out there who are really that evil, who are able to compartmentalize everything in their lives, and they're able to act like they're able to wear different masks. I remember years ago I had a psychiatry teacher that when I was in high school, you had to take psychology courses. So I remember the teacher they had for us. He was a very good teacher. He was very knowledgeable on human behavior, and he taught us some very fascinating things about the human mind. And I remember he said to us, he said, everyone has a mask. Everyone has a mask. And we naturally cover what we really feel. It's only every once in a while that we really reveal truly what we feel about things. And it's every once in a while that we truly unleash our anger. It's every once in a while that we truly unleash what we truly want to say, what we really feel inside. That's why music is so popular, because music, depending on the music that we listen to, and what we listen to is determined by what we feel inside. But music is expressing what we feel within ourselves. That's why we have diverse tastes in music. That's why one day you're listening to rock and roll, another day you're listening to techno, one day you're listening to Vivaldi, Baroque music. Why? Because it's determined by what you feel inside yourself. And everyone has a mask. But some people can wear multiple masks. Most people, I think, have one mask. Some people have a dozen masks. And those people are terrifying. Those people are terrifying. And that, to be able to murder people and then go to church and act like you're Mr. Pastor, that's a whole dimension of evil that we really can't fathom. But one thing that we can be certain of, evil comes with different masks. And sometimes the mask is obviously insidious. And at times, the mask has the face of piety. And that's the very mask that crucified Jesus Christ. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.